A lot of people in the United States, and I think all over the world, they're unhappy with the way their lives are.
I was going through a lot of financial and social media success, but also a lot of mental health issues. Basically dropped everything and moved here. I think what attracted a lot of foreigners to Tulum, specifically successful, people who have been entrepreneurially.
I love the people who decide to invest in Tulum, but they live here because they are the ones who really care about Tulum.
One thing I was able to do down here, which you can't do easily in other places, is you can kind of establish who you're going to be.
And to summarize it, living here, we are happier.
Where am I?
We're in Mexico. Welcome to the jungle.
The world changed drastically after COVID-19. People realized they could work remotely and choose the best places to live. These places used to be popular only for vacations or winter stays, but now they have become real expat hubs. These can be neighborhoods in big cities or small villages with access to a major airport. And what happened to these places after the pandemic? The people who came here as temporary tourists started living here. Businesses quickly followed, adapting to their lifestyle. Good restaurants, internal schools, everything you need for a permanent stay. Now these places are experiencing a real boom. As a result, we've got a new global map, a kind of network of expat hubs that millions of people are flocking to. I'm heading to Tulum, one of those places that has transformed from an isolated village where Mayan descendants and fishermen lived into a city with a planned population of around 400,000 people. With an international airport already operating, a railway under construction, international schools appearing, and where the resident profile has drastically changed, now mostly consisting of expats.
When I first arrived in Tulum like 20 years ago, there was nothing here at all. It was just jungle. Everywhere was jungle. The beach, there was no buildings on it. One of the things that I joked about in my first meeting, I showed up in a suit and tie. I'd come from Los Angeles, I was sweating, it was terribly hot, and all of a sudden walking down the beach was the guy that I called Naked Santa Claus. So it was this big fat guy with a white beard and all that, with a cane, just walking down the beach, completely naked. I'm like, where am I?
I've been living in Tulum since '79. I grew up here, and I had the opportunity to live by the entrance of the ruins. It is the biggest archaeological site on the water. There was not many people back then. This was like a nude beach. In the first week of this January, I came here, I brought a group of Croatians. And for the first time, I saw the whole beach full of people. I've never had seen so many people here. So I was very surprised.
How big was the population of Tulum 20 years ago? I don't even know. I'll tell you this thing, I knew every face. Now at this point, I think there's 30 or 40,000 people. Tulum, 20 or 30 years ago, was basically a hippie town. There was nothing here at all. The ruins were here, and they say that the ruins have been built here because of a magnetic vortex of the world, that there's several places that they consider to be spiritual places in the world. So it attracted a lot of people to come down that were looking for a more alternative type of life. Yoga, meditation, camping on the beach, it was very, very bohemian. The seeds were planted then, now they've come through. So I mean, everybody that wants a life that, you know, alternative lifestyle, live in nature, be connected to nature.
I visited Tulum 9 years ago for the first time, 8-9 years ago. I was going through a lot of financial and social media success, but also a lot of mental health issues. And I came here with a friend, and she said, you gotta come check out Tulum. It's quite a spiritual place. It's a good place to try and heal yourself. And at that time I was like, oh, heal yourself, mumbo jumbo, you know, the typical type of perception of that, you know, that type of world. But I came here, I met a bunch of locals.
Just trying to bite you. Oh, okay.
We're in Mexico. Welcome to the jungle. And I came here early 2016. The nature, the music, the beaches, the vibe of the people was very different from the high stress, rush type of you know, people that I was used to. So I got hooked and I came back every single year until eventually near the end of the pandemic, I thought, okay, you know, I had my daughter now, I had my wife. Came here for 3 months, ended up staying 4 months and went back home, sold everything, our house, our cars, basically dropped everything and moved here. And to summarize it as shortly as possible, living here, we are happier, meaning me and my family, we're happier with much less. So in the Netherlands, for example, I had to make a lot of money, whereas here, I mean, I haven't bought new shoes in 3 years. I walk around barefoot half the time. It's much easier and much cheaper to be happy here.
When I first arrived in Tulum like 20 years ago, there was nothing here at all, but it did attract basically 2 different types of people. Celebrities, there were a lot of celebrities that were coming here because it was a place they could escape. Nobody knew who they were, they didn't know their name. And they could be out on the beach, you know, and nobody would bother them. There was no photographers, there was no paparazzi, there was nobody knew who they were. And so they could be just somebody, whatever. The other thing that attracted her a lot, this is actually one of the top places in the world for ocean fly fish, or saltwater fly fishing.
Once I caught a 1 kilo lobster, that was a great experience back then, because now it's so hard to find very big fishes that back then, sometimes we could fish with a single shot of a harpoon, we could get 2 or 3 fishes at once.
Whereas I came here and all of a sudden, I was seeing celebrities all the time. And people who at the time were really, really well known. Some of them are still very, very well known. There was a supermodel, a guy that was here, and he came in and he did a small hotel. And it was very, very stylish and really, really beautiful, but very subtle, like not showy at all. The place was called Coqui Coqui, it still exists. It was like the vibe of Tulum, and so all of a sudden, a lot of models were coming in, so a lot of beautiful people were here, and then it starts coming more and more people. Then there started becoming more and more development, but it was really the thing that set it off was the pandemic, because this was one of the only places people could be. And although everybody is supposed to be wearing masks all the time, I mean, my guys, I bought them masks for the job sites and they put their tortillas in them.
In this region, they were a little bit more relaxed with the rules. You know, you had the masks and you had the whole thing, but they weren't enforcing it like in America or Western Europe. So a lot of people came here during the pandemic because they wanted to get away from these, you know, these situations. But a lot of them had never been here before. Mm-hmm. So they came here and they fell in love with the place. So they came, they fell in love, they wanted to invest. You know, these people don't want to leave, or they left and they invested and they're going to come back. So it definitely created an explosion. for this region.
That was very strong all the way through the end of the pandemic. Very, very strong. I mean, there was condos that were tiny studios all the way up to, 3 or 4 or 5 bedrooms. But as that market started getting very, very full and the pandemic started, relaxing, then all of a sudden there was a lot of that on the market, but people still want to come here. And that started opening up a market for homes again, going back to residential. Residential homes that are renting for, $12,000 a month. There's very nice homes.
Before it was easy to buy a property. My mother bought her property next to the bus station. She paid for one property there 5,000 pesos. But now, for the same property, the company of buses, ADO, tried to pay my mother like 7 million pesos the last time they wanted to buy the property.
But now this is the new trend that's happening, is because of the train, because of the airport, the big developers coming in and trying to say, okay, we've got a lot of short-term rental, how do we make this a community? And so they're starting to invest a lot of money in these bigger developments that are concentrating on how do we make this more comfortable for families. And so there's schools that are being developed here. There's a lot of events, there's a lot more. It's not just going to the beach and that's the only thing to do. Now there's a million different things to do, and that's attracting more younger families.
Right now it's wake up early, bring my daughter to school. Good private school, so we're happy with it. Bilingual school, she can speak both English and Spanish. She's 6. In the Netherlands and Canada, for 7 to 9 months of the year, it's cold, it's raining, or it's snowing. So the kids are inside a lot more computer time, more interacting with toys, and puts more pressure on the parents to do something with them. Here, we bring her to Holistica on Saturdays for 4 hours, and she makes a pottery class. Right? Or we take her to a cenote, and she's seeing, we had turtles, and they grew up and they got too big, and we released them in a cenote with the biologist's permission, of course, and we go visit the turtles. It's amazing. There's endless activities and opportunities.
Most of these places have a distinct resident profile. If you imagine Manhattan, you've probably seen a person wearing a suit and holding a cup of coffee. They are quickly crossing the street without noticing others. In Dubai, we might see someone in designer brands gracefully stepping out of an expensive car. Tulum has its own style too. And honestly, it's hard for me to imagine someone in Gucci and Balenciaga on the streets of Tulum. This style is called slow fashion. Slow fashion is a trend that has replaced fast fashion. Simply put, it's when you don't chase after fashion by buying a bunch of branded clothes from new collections, but rather get a few high-quality, versatile items that will last longer. It's an eco-friendly approach to clothing that the conscious new generation is choosing. This trend has long been established in Tulum.
So I came here as a European living in the Netherlands most of my life. And I noticed the clothes. People don't dress like they're, with brands. The hats and the artisanal type of clothing. But then I went to the shops and the clothes are expensive. So it was like, it seems like people here are paying a lot of money to look poor, you know, kind of thing. Okay, this must be a Tulum thing. So that's the whole boho chic type of styling.
Hola.
Now, we're gonna go to a store called Ptolemy Baby. It's a local store. They make the clothes right here. I ordered a couple sets of clothes for my kids, and maybe I'll pick up something for myself.
Hola. Anatoly.
Linda, mucho gusto.
Linda. Mucho gusto. All right.
Hi.
How do you describe traditional fashion style in Tulum?
In Tulum, well, there's a specific aesthetic here in Tulum. The people usually use light, natural colors, very basic pieces. Most of the clothes I use cotton, muslin, or gauze. I started with the baby brand, and then the same fabrics I use for the adult line. Doing it, it is not cheap, but it is not that expensive.
50 bucks for this cute little... I'm not even sure what to call this. Is it a poncho?
Yes, it's a poncho. It is not cheap because I have to pay the fabric, and I have to pay,
right.
and I have to pay the seamstress, and she has to pay someone who cut the fabric. So,
But demand is big, right? So there is no any problems to sell it, right?
no, that is not any
So,
problem. No, for the zone, the prices for me are okay.
And do you work with the local people?
Yes, that's the only people that I work for. They are Mexicans and some Argentinian people.
Hola.
Consuelo, ¿podemos pasar? Sí. Sí.
She is Consuelo.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, hola. She
Anatoly.
is behind the magic of my clothes.
All right.
Now they're taking my measurements, and we'll be ordering clothes. This is called sustainable production. When you buy from a local and see this local, they make clothes and cook here. Here, they are listening to Mexican music. It all makes sense to me.
I'm really excited.
Of course, everywhere in the world you have a certain level of status and ego. You have it here as well, but it's a lot less than in other places that I've visited. So people here are a little bit more laid back, so they dress us more laid back. Even when you go out, to dinners or to music festivals or parties, you see someone come from Europe and they feel uncomfortable in their European clothes. They go to a shop and they buy themselves a kimono.
Like I did.
Exactly, and then they go out because they actually feel out of place. And I think that says a lot about the kind of the vibe and energy of a place. If I go somewhere and I feel uncomfortable in my clothing, it means that there's a very strong style. I think that was what really caught my attention, is that it really has its own DNA.
I saw a lot of quadricycles here. Like, this is the best way to
For the normal Tulum roads, yeah, it's the best way. Yeah.
Wow. It's like a Burning Man style, you know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So there is no sense to clean it, right?
No. And then just make sure it's well shut.
Now this is the real Tulum vibe. If you're coming here, you've got to ride in one of these. No Ferraris, no need to wash it. Everything's perfect. This is the real deal. Let's go, shall we? Who is the resident of Tulum in terms of their activities? Generally, it's someone who can run their business remotely with no ties to one specific location. Or it's a digital nomad who spends 2 to 6 months a year in one place. But who are these remote workers? And what do we know about this global trend? They're young people, aged 25 to 40. Most of them have a good income, starting at $75,000 a year. 38% of them have children, and typically they're well educated. It's expected that the total number of these people will exceed 40 million by 2024 and around 60 million by 2060. The total economic value of this group, meaning how much they spend in a year, is almost $800 billion. Though the estimate is debatable because it's naturally hard to count the digital nomads, where and how they spend their money. But it's at least some justified analysis that the BBC uses. 83% of nomads are self-employed, with 66% owning a business, and the rest being freelancers. 17% are corporate remote workers. What other patterns does this analysis reveal? Nomads need a location near a large body of water, a major airport, and nature. And what do they want? First, location independence, flexible work schedules, new impressions and experiences, freedom of lifestyle, and a good business community. Tulum meets all these criteria, and the display of this beautiful free lifestyle, albeit somewhat exaggerated on Instagram, attract others who want to come and have the same experience.
I'm a social influencer, for most part in fitness, so coaching people, training people. And being at the cenotes, I discovered freediving through watching some divers without oxygen, going down 5-10 meters and just looking around, and I go, what are these people doing? Where's their oxygen tank? And I was fascinated by it. So I was like, okay, I don't feel like creating the bodybuilding content so much anymore, but I'm seeing this incredible underwater world. I wanted to share that with people. It was just too amazing to not share. So and this video got 100 million views on Instagram. So it went mega viral. Mega viral. And that caused my whole page to go viral with all the other videos, underwater videos. So, as I mentioned, that's all online, right?
So you're kind of digital nomad as well, right?
Correct, yeah.
Social media is one of Tulum's biggest drivers. Living here is trendy, and life here is beautiful. Being a part of Tulum means being in the trend. So even when designing new hotels or restaurants, there's a new criterion: to be Instagrammable.
Tulum became famous because of Instagram for a big part, and that's because the people that can live here comfortably earn their income online in some way, and influencers are like that. A lot of influencer friends from all around the world. We have some friends from the Netherlands that live here. We make most of our income online, and we have people running our warehouses. So let's see if we even have to be in the Netherlands. I think what attracted a lot of foreigners to Tulum, specifically successful, people who have been entrepreneurially successful.
I think a lot of that has to do with the quality of life. That there's a freedom of living. It's an inexpensive place, and you can zip down to the beach. It's right down the way. So that's attracted a lot of people. But also, as those people have come, they demand better services, better restaurants, better things, better businesses. And so all of a sudden that's bringing in other people to support that. And so there's other communities that are starting to develop around for all the people that are working in the hotels, they're working in the service sector and so on and so forth. So that's growing.
It's a great place, especially if you don't need to physically be at your workplace or at your business. It's one of the perfect places to do that. I mean, you're not too far from the US. I heard a lot about Bali being that kind of a place, but in Bali, you're not on an island, segregated from the rest of the world. You're a bit further away from everything. So here it's exotic, it's beautiful. Till now, it's been expensive enough to filter the type of people that can come here and live. For some people in certain businesses, that creates a revolving door of interesting people to meet for your business, for your whatever you're doing.
There is a lot of opportunities here. So I think what I always say is that Tulum, if you want to focus on business, you can find a lot of business. If you want to focus on real estate, there's a lot of real estate. If you want to focus on more of a wellness aspect, there's a lot of that as well. So I think right now Tulum is in a place where it can give you a lot of what you're looking for. You just have to focus and look for it. Tulum, untapped market for anything you want. And so very virgin.
One thing I was able to do down here, which you can't do easily in other places, is you can kind of establish who you're going to be. And if you want to come here and you want to, be a cowboy in the jungle, you can do it. If you want to come here and you want to, open a Chinese restaurant, but you're actually Argentine, you can do it. And there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. A lot of people in the United States, and I think all over the world, they're unhappy with the way their lives are. They want something different. And they realize that you can't just buy things to make you happy. Like at some point, you've got everything that you need and nothing else it only makes you incrementally happy, whereas you go back to a more simple way of living. And I think that you get richness, you get connection, you get friends, you get family, you get outdoorsing. And that's what, the push, and I do think there's going to be a lot of that kind of living here in this zone because it's inexpensive. There's lots of nature, there's lots of land to investigate and discover. So it's not going to be a point where this is going to be like a expat city. I think this is going to be a very metropolitan city. People from everywhere, they're going to come here and kind of take on this Tulum.
But this beautiful life has a flip side, the displacement of the local population. We're stepping on the same rake as with the Native Americans. This is how modern capitalism works. And inevitably, sooner or later, gentrification comes to these beautiful, once secret corners of our planet. What does it mean? It's the process of urban renewal, where wealthier residents move in, displacing the lower-income local population.
I would certainly say that 50% of Tulum's population is either Argentine, Italian, from England, German, American, or Canadian. Mexicans, this place, there's locals who have lived here before. It's basically the same amount. Some of them are leaving because it's a very expensive place to live. But now people from Monterrey, Guadalajara, Mexico City, they're coming to live here because this is a great place for them to live. And they can make more money here with their businesses than they could back home.
The fast development of Tulum, I think that a big disadvantage for Mayans is education. Just this year, opened the first university in Tulum. Before that, the closest one was in Carrillo Puerto in Cancun. When I was a kid, there were no universities in this state. If they are not well educated, normally they are not well capacitated for certain jobs, you know. So normally they are hired just to be gardeners, to be waiters. So that's a shame. Mayans are very good cooks. Some travel agencies, for instance, I don't want to name but sometimes they hired people from other regions of Mexico who look more Caucasians. They tell locals that we are going to visit a Mayan community, we are going to buy their products and that kind of things. So they sell them as a product. And I think that's wrong because they are human beings. They have to be respected and they should be included in some business and not to be part of the scenography of a business.
Tulum has made a quantum leap in infrastructure development over the past year. An international airport was built 10 kilometers from the city, capable of handling up to 4 million passengers a year. That's almost the entire population of Panama. The Maya train will pass through Tulum by the end of 2024. The Mexican government has already spent $28.5 billion on this project. This high-speed railway stretches 1,500 kilometers and can transport up to 3 million passengers a year. The route encircles the Yucatan Peninsula and connects Caribbean resorts with the famous Maya pyramids. This will finally allow tourists to venture beyond the hotel grounds and travel around the entire peninsula. The government claims that the Maya train will improve the economic situation in the southeastern region of the country. It will create new jobs, and initial estimates suggest the train will bring more than $5 billion to the country's budget. But it's not as positive as it seems at first glance. Environmentalist and indigenous community representatives are raising alarms. They claim that the Maya train will lead the region to an ecological disaster. The train's route passes through a unique ecosystem. Under the ground of the Yucatan are thousands of water-filled caves, cenotes, which are the main source of drinking water on the peninsula. In some areas, the railway piles are driven directly into the fragile cenotes. The train's vibrations can damage not only the cave ceilings, but also millennia-old archaeological sites. Moreover, the train crosses the second-largest tropical forest in Latin America. The railway threatens the existence of jaguars and almost 400 bird species.
The Mayan train has done something, certainly, has had a humongous impact on the environment. I mean, you cut a trough right down the middle of the jungle. The communication between one side of the jungle and another side of the jungle, it's going to be affected.
I don't like, of course, how they destroyed the whole jungle and how jaguars and monkeys are not going to be able to cross anymore. So we're trying to propose this bridge, no? Like this, it's not called a bridge, tunnel, yes. To be able to protect the animals for just keep on going and crossing and not having the risk of getting hurt by the train. And it's a whole process, and I think it's definitely possible to do it right.
Train is actually, I believe, good for any region that needs to move people and goods and to explore the region and to have more connectivity. You know, I've experienced this in Europe, and I've experienced this in Japan. It's amazing to move by train. You know, it's also way more efficient instead of moving people, instead of having thousands of cars on the road. Of course, it's all about also how they have done it. You know, some people have claimed that they have damaged the aquifer, the ecosystem. I don't know, I don't have the information, but I believe that in the long run, it's going to be beneficial for the country and for the region.
I mean, up until this year, there was now there's an airport, and I flew through the airport. It's going to bring more people to Tulum. The train's going to be finished. Before that, Tulum was quite difficult to visit. You had to drive an hour and a half from Cancun. You had to know you wanted to come. It was quite expensive to come here. So it was a little bit protected in that sense that it was less accessible and therefore it didn't develop as quick. But now with the pandemic, with the music festivals, an airport, a train, it's starting to really grow. A lot of the cool local people, they say, oh, the airport's gonna destroy Tulum. They're even saying Tulum's already dead. And these are people that don't really live here. I moved here with my daughter, with my dog, my family 3.5 years ago, and the improving infrastructure is actually good. Like, I'm happy the roads are better. I'm happy that it's easier to get to the supermarket. I'm happy that they've expanded the supermarket. I'm happy that they've clamped down on crime and stuff like that. I'm happy with the rates at which it's happening for now. The only concern I might have is that so many people came here and wanted to immediately develop and invest that I've seen a lot of buildings go up that don't have character. They're just units, people trying to make money off of the fact that this is a hotspot. And those are the buildings and those are the types of people that do eventually degrade the vibe of a place. But I think that's going to be a concern everywhere and any place that's popular. It's kind of inevitable.
Tulum has its unique charm reflected in the architecture. Not every city or country has a specific and recognizable style. Even Tulum's cuisine differs somewhat from traditional Mexican fare. It's a blend of international cuisine with a Mexican touch. This all creates a unique identity for the city, setting it apart from other places. Many hotels and homes in Tulum are built in the eco-chic style, which means combining pristine nature with comfort and luxury. These hotels present themselves as being made from eco-friendly materials, seamlessly integrating into the natural landscape of Tulum. This creates a harmonious image of the city, turning Tulum into a wild slice of paradise on earth.
The eco-chic in Tulum design definitely started around 20 years ago. There was, again, people who were hippies. They were just camping on the beach, but they were hippies that were also, trust fund babies. They got tons of money. They just chose to live in a very simple way. And so they would have a hotel, but they still just wanted to walk around in flip-flops all day long. And so these hotels were very, very simple and very understated. So it started creating a dress, like the way you dressed in Tulum. Then there started coming a couple different ones, which is Be Tulum. And they started doing a design that was, very Tulum, using the, like I mentioned, Coqui Coqui before, that was really the trendsetter and the feel of Tulum. And they started developing their things. Then Habitas came, a Mezzanine. And that was what kind of established the way it was. Azulik was here, I think, before all of them. It was but again, that type of thing. Somebody said, I want to do something very, very special. And the whole place is like an art piece. It's all done by hand. So there's nothing that's done in a factory there. It's all done by hand.
Azulik Hotel became popular due to its concept of sustainability and connection with nature. The rooms have no electricity, internet, air conditioning, or shower. Instead, there might be baths with warm water from the cenotes. Its treehouse cabins have become a model of eco-architecture worldwide. The room cost starts at $600 per night, and it goes up to $7,000.
What I love about the architecture here in Tulum is that they try to avoid straight lines. Especially with, you know, the world famous Azulik, it almost looks like a shell or like a living thing. That gives the space in Tulum kind of an organic feeling because there's no straight lines in nature, right? There's no right angles really in nature.
What happens in Tulum is that it's this wilderness that Tulum style shows is related to the wildness of the actual Quintana Roo jungles. Right? And the materiality of the Tulum style, I think it's more about the actual rock that you find, like the whole peninsula is one big rock, so it's one of the most accessible material that we have. And there's also a lot of wood pieces of different thicknesses that come from the jungle that are used also in an organic way.
The trends that I've seen in real estate in the last 5 years has definitely been, again, we're spending with time where Airbnb was at its peak and before there were taxes on it and so on and so forth. So Airbnb was very strong, and plus the pandemic. As well as there were some hotel, or I'll call it condominium designers. I'm going to say one in particular, Arthouse, that we had the fortune to be involved in. They were really trendsetters. And I walked out, the first time I saw it, I walked out, I was like, no, this is never going to work. It looks like something out of a city, or it looks like a castle. Wow.
Arthouse are apartments with a totally new concept. Modern buildings with pools no longer resemble the Tulum beach hotels with thatched roofs, but they still harmoniously intertwine with nature.
It started setting a trend because it's beautiful design, it's art, and it started attracting, and everybody's saying, wow, we can do something really spectacular here. And so the architecture started going up from there. So that opened the doors for saying, okay, we've got Airbnb, we've got, the economy's going very, very well. We've got unbelievable design and unbelievable amenities and a high level of concierge service, that you can get the things that you want to get.
It's only 9 years ago we started this project, yes. Well, his art house became a trend or became a reference point. It was not only about the real estate, it was about actually doing something with responsibility, using art and nature and architecture as the tools to express that.
The architecture we see in Tulum now is far from its final form. The city is evolving. New designers are coming in, and new projects are being planned that could radically change Tulum's image. One such project is Azulik Residences. It might seem like alien sculptures in the jungle, but this is a residential complex with apartments and villas, many of which are already sold out during the construction. The designers of the new Azulik call this project the architecture of the future.
Azulik. These are residential sculptures. And these aren't just words. The towers with apartments, the villas, and the houses, they all look like real sculptures. It's art. Azulik is a project born in the Mayan jungle. Located 500 meters from the sea, the place is rather unique. So you live near the sea and surrounded by the jungle. The project's main idea is not to invade, but to integrate into nature. Today, the concept of luxury is changing. Architecture is changing. For modern people, luxury is living in contact with the environment, living among nature. Luxury isn't about gold or marble anymore. It's about something else. Luxury means having the opportunity to touch nature with your own hands. Take off your shoes and feel the real jungle. White sand, the sea. Not many people have the chance to do that nowadays.
My name is Jose Luis Inostroza. I'm the chef and owner of restaurant Arca. I think that we're one of the few restaurants that works 100% with community members and with local purveyors. We work with eight types of fishermen from different areas around the peninsula. We only work 100% with products that are from Mexico. Nothing is imported. That is what makes us different, which is using these Mayan ingredients, these Mayan recipes and Mayan traditions, but focusing on sea products. So we do work with Mayan communities that grow citruses, that grow cacao, that grow different types of fruits. Siquilpac is a very local pumpkin seed dip from the area. It's more common in the Mayan table to have a siquilpac than to have a salt at the table.
This is really delicious.
Basically, we work with one of our purveyors that collects everything, both harvested and both wild. He could also collect wild ingredients. For example, there's cinnamon that grows in the area. So we use like the green leaves of the cinnamon tree, and we use the leaves of local citruses. We have a mixture of scallop from the Pacific part of Mexico, fermented green tomato, scallop juice, and a seaweed called sea lettuce. And we're gonna top it off with lemongrass oil. Enjoy.
I can't wait to try this next thing.
I think, like any other touristy destination, there's a lot of tourist traps, and there's a lot of general restaurants. You know, that has salmon, that has ribeye from the US, that has asparagus from France, that has all these generic world ingredients, which is nice. Sometimes you want to go do that. So I think the small restaurants are the ones that we are doing more of a labor of representing the area and the communities. And also, the idea for a business is to spread the wealth of the people around you. I think that's what makes us different from every other restaurant. So bone marrow, classic kind of staple in Mexican cuisine. Goes together with sourdough pulque bread. Pulque is the sap of an agave plant.
Tulum is now experiencing a construction boom, with more than 350 active developers in the city, which naturally affects the city's current look. We see construction cranes, unpaved roads, dust. The municipality can't keep up with laying down sewage systems for all the new buildings. Today, the whole city is a large construction site. The tendency is likely to continue for at least another 5 to 10 years, with serious environmental implications.
The main environmental issue that we've encountered right now Deforestation is one problem, but there's so much forest here that that's not the main concern. The main concern here is because we have an unusual topography where we have lakes running underneath it. There's hardly any surface water, but running underneath us is aquifers everywhere.
The underground water system, this region is fascinating. One of the main reasons that it makes it fascinating is that it's a network of hundreds of kilometers of water. So if we actually throw the water or any chemical that goes into the water, the gray water, black water, into the soil, it's not going to be clean. It's a matter of the tipping point. How much can that system hold?
The main issues is the water, the gray and black water not well managed, so it's being everywhere, as well as the trash stands, like trash places that they're just leaking constantly, so there should not be any type of trash directly to the ground. We should all take it to the correct space to be able to process it right. The constructions, for example, a lot of people doesn't see these as this paradise that you're seeing or this beautiful thing. They see it as a hole that can fit stuff. So when they construct, they build stuff, sometimes they just take all the, extra stuff for the building and just tuck it into a hole that is a cenote at the end, I know a lot of the divers that know this for years that are like not even diving anymore because it's sad to see how it's polluted.
Yeah, it can make people sick, fundamentally. In a longer term, which I'm saying longer term, 5-10 years, if we kill the water, the fresh water, and follow the fresh water, it's going to affect the reef. Because the reef that basically this is the second largest reef in the entire world, it needs this communication from the salt water and the fresh water. And so it is doing this back and forth all the time. If it no longer has this source of this water, this nutrient-filled water that's coming in from the lagoon and so on and so forth, then it will die. If it dies, then instead of those storms coming in and hitting that reef and then stopping, they're going to come all the way in level Tulum. Over the past 20 years, or even before that, the reef has changed. It's changed color. The animals that are there have changed. And a lot of that is because there is so much more development, and a lot of these developers are not being responsible, and they're saving $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. It's not that much when you're doing multi-million-dollar projects, but they're not investing in caring for the wastewater treatment.
So there are technologies, and the technologies, some of them are really, really simple, really, I would say, low tech. It's just a matter of understanding how to integrate them.
Your house is fully sustainable?
This house is, yes. And the majority of the projects we've done are. We have no water lines. Actually, I don't filter. Other houses here in development, we have installed filters and so on and so forth, but my house just collects the rainwater, the water that settles, and then I use that water to bathe in, to drink, everything else.
It's drinkable, like it's
yeah,
okay.
It's perfect, it's perfect. Rainwater, the only problem with rainwater is it has no minerals. But in terms of everything else, cooking or cleaning, all that kind of stuff, a lot of people just use the water directly as it comes in.
What about sewer system?
Sewer system I created myself. It's actually called a humedal, or an engineered wetland. So basically the water flows through a septic tank, filters automatically. There's some air that's injected in it to help the process move a little faster, and then there's a big garden that feeds that, and you can put bananas in there, you can put, so plants that love that environment, and they finish filtering the water.
Water, what is amazing, I believe, is that it's water that has nutrients for other species. So it's not waste. It is food for other species, microorganisms. So we need to just create the conditions for these organisms to be happy in there, to be living and thriving, and then have their food, which is basically every time that we go to the toilet, we feed them, right? And then there's plants, roots of plants that actually kind of are adequate for those bacteria to thrive in their own ecosystem.
Unfortunately, The majority of Tulum's developers don't care about nature. They dump waste into the ground without laying proper sewage systems or considering that their buildings might be standing on cenotes. They don't think about how these waste might seep into the caves or the ocean.
Aquí está la prueba del delito que están haciendo, del delito, listo, grabado, pipa.
But thank God, conscious businessmen in Tulum consider factors like the percentage of land developed. They make sure not to clear large amounts of jungle on their plots and lay down proper sewage systems at their own expense without waiting for the government. Naturally, this gives hope that the area can be sustainable.
Obviously now, getting into the freediving and being in cenotes all the time, I've become more aware and of what's happening, and obviously now it's something close to my life. I'm concerned about the water contamination. I'm seeing the train building foundations through caves, waterways that lead to the cenotes that I love. I get concerned. Obviously, seeing the population of Tulum can go to 1 million in the high season. The infrastructure to clean up the garbage, it's still a problem. So my concern, and I've even reached out to the mayor on social media and got a response, and like, you've built an airport, you've built a train, you're gonna bring a lot of people here, but let's make sure that we can get the garbage cleaned out.
Well, I invited you to Tulum Circula. That is the recycling center in Tulum. Between 15 and 20 tons a month of plastic that's coming from the restaurants and the hotels, and between 60 and 80 tons of glass every 2 months. We have this machine that is a TF100. So in that machine, we put inside the plastic, all of the plastic that we take from here, and from that we can transform it into different things, you know, like this, for example, to like a building. We call this like the marble plastic, right? Because at the end, the colors and all that is very interesting, and it's crazy to think. And we're gonna create another one that is gonna do gasoline, so it's pet gas. All the plastic and even like the unicel, everything will be able to become in a pyrolysis system a gas, no, energy. So like gasoline, diesel, LP, there's like 5 different types of combustibles that's generated with the plastic. Yeah, with that we'll be able to transform these 14 tons a day of plastic into that, and we'll be able to put all our vehicles with our same fuel, so it's also cleaner. For example, for the boats, for the tours, for the turtles, when you have the gasoline, it's very polluting for the ocean and for the turtles that you're visiting. And pet gas doesn't have heavy metals in the gas, so it's a cleaner gasoline as well. I also discovered Bitcoin a couple of years ago. I was always dreaming on making like my own coin based on love. You know, I wanted like to base a coin on love, and then it was so hard to base a coin on love. I was just like, how? So we started to working in a format that it can be worth more for actions, you know, for good actions, for cleaning. So we created a token that is called the Tulum coin, and that you cannot really buy anywhere. It's more that you can earn it. You know, you come to Tulum, you give some love to Tulum, and then you earn it. And then you're gonna be able to pay in all these different places, in the restaurants, in the hotels, in different...
And how to earn it?
Coming to the cleanups, so basically, like we do beach cleanup, city cleanup. Or to come to Tulum Circula and separate colors, or separate the different glasses, or this. So these bottles, what we do is separate by colors. We do therapy in Tulum Circular that you can all join, and that we invite as well the community to come and earn tokens as well for this. That is the range management. So you can come and just break the glass and release your range, or just like, instead of being mad that everything is dirty, just come and help out to make it better. And that's super fun because it's like, you know, you're like, yeah, just being able to break stuff that sometimes you cannot, so that's something really fun as well.
It must be cool.
Can come and join.
Tulum will definitely not be the quiet village it used to be 25 years ago, as those who came here during that time captivatingly and inspiringly tell us. We see a solid transformation. This is a city with an airport, railway, infrastructure, and now permanent residents. Perhaps the only question to ask is what the future of this city will be.
I do think that the jungle between the actual town and the beach is going to be developed, probably fully. That's why I hope that they maintain that architectural style, that they limit the amount of trees they can cut down per
The density.
the density, just to keep that vibe.
I love the people who decide to invest in Tulum, but they live here, because they are the ones who really care about Tulum, not the ones that are living somewhere else and they just have 3, 4, 5 businesses here.
Tulum is not the village it used to be 20 or 30 years ago. However, developers creating new projects in Tulum understand exactly what people here are looking for. A place that's not like Cancun or Playa del Carmen. Tulum has its own essence, its own identity, and a strong brand. Therefore, new developers have to design buildings that resemble the ones that were built here before. And they have to advertise them as places where you can live Tulum style. Tulum will keep growing, but with its own identity and design that will set it apart from other cities in the world. I'm sure of it.
I guess that Tulum is definitely a human experiment that has never happened before. It is happening in a moment in time that there's 140 nationalities, but it's also in a place where there's a lot of knowledge, ancient knowledge, and like the Mayan knowledge, that is probably, from my perspective, one of the most fascinating. They were so accurate with several things that are in tune with what we're saying. It's about how to treat nature, how to understand nature, how to live with nature in a very creative way. So that experiment by itself, it's there to be revealed.
Tulum is the hope for the world, you know? If we can make it in Tulum, that it's a little town for 40,000 people now, aiming to be 2 million, but 40,000 people. If we're able to do it in Tulum, we're able to do it everywhere. So I really believe that showing what we did in Tulum will inspire the rest of the world to turn regenerative as well in the real manner, not just saying, but doing.